What would you do if I told you that you don't have to have it all figured out? It's a place in your struggle that God is trying to develop faith in you, because it's going to take that faith to sustain you in where God is going to place you. Spiritual work is so necessary, and the core to anything that you're doing in the physical is God. That faith, that relationship, that belief has to be solid as a rock, so that when struggle shows up, it's okay, because you're understanding now that the struggle is showing up for you to look inside the struggle for evidence on what God is trying to develop in you. That's why it shows up. You ain't stuck. You're just stagnant because it's something there that's so pivotal in your walk with God, something so valuable. God doesn't want you to miss it. Some of us, we feel stuck today because we wanted to have it all figured out, and we don't know how to figure it out. We've went to school for it. We've studied it. It should come a little easy. But for whatever reason, we may be feeling resistance in an area that we know God really wants us to really be in, dwell in, saturate in. But it just seems so very difficult. And so when it's difficult like that, then we doubt what God has told us and say, well, maybe that wasn't God. That could have been the devil trying to tell me, if you anything like me, to do something, because it shouldn't be this hard for me to do whatever it is that God is calling me to do. Or maybe it's something that you do daily that's almost like a struggle. Maybe you're struggling in your finances. Maybe you're struggling in your relationships. Maybe you're struggling at school. Maybe you are just struggling on that job because you want to do your best. But in the midst of doing your best, you want to have it laid out, like all figured out. What if I told you today that you don't have to have it all figured out? Isn't that amazing, but scary? All at the same time. So, Shonda, you're trying to tell me that I don't have to have it all figured out. No, you don't. No, you don't have to have every piece of your life figured out. Because if you had it figured out, think about this. Where does faith come into play? See, sometimes God will give you a grand idea of what he's calling you to do, or where he wants you to be. And sometimes it's difficult, or sometimes we get stuck and we struggle. And the reason, in most cases, that we struggle the way that we do is because we don't have the faith that we need to see it through. We don't have the faith that we need. See, it's one thing to say, you know what, I got faith the size of a mustard seed. It's one thing to say it with your lips, but it's another thing to feel it in your heart. See, when you feel it in your heart the way that you should, no matter what is showing up in front of you, you understand that it's something that God is trying to perfect on the inside of you. And I want you to know this, that it is impossible to not struggle if you don't have your faith. It's impossible to please God if you don't have your faith. Sometimes struggle will show up in our lives to develop our faith more. Have you ever thought about that? You don't have to have it all figured out. We serve a God that knows everything, and what he really wants us to learn to do is depend on him for real, for real. For real, for real. Sometimes we delay his help in our struggle because we don't have the faith that we need in the struggle. Sometimes we get sidetracked by the struggle instead of getting behind the struggle and looking at the struggle to see exactly what God is trying to perfect inside of us during this time. I want to give you a word just real quick because I want you to know today, I want you to have a great week this week. And I want you to realize that it is okay if you don't have it all figured out. It's no way that you're going to have every part of your life figured out. And just trying to figure it out sometimes, it gets real heavy. See, figuring it out is a God thing. God is designed to work it out. How can he work it out if we're just stuck in struggle trying to figure it out? We have to give it to him and trust him. According to Hebrews 11:6, my Amplified version says, but without faith, it is impossible to please God. That means that it's impossible for you to really have the connection and the relationship and walk with God without your faith. For whoever comes to God must believe that God exists. That means whoever comes near God must believe without a doubt that God exists and that he rewards those who seek him. Not just seeking, baby, earnestly and diligently. Have you ever thought about maybe the place that God is taking you to is a place where your faith has to be perfected in him? It's a place in your struggle that God is trying to develop faith in you because it's going to take that faith to sustain you in where God is going to place you. Spiritual work is so necessary, and the core to anything that you're doing in the physical is God. That faith, that relationship, that belief has to be solid as a rock so that when struggle shows up, it's okay because you're understanding now that the struggle is showing up for you to look inside the struggle for evidence on what God is trying to develop in you. That's why it shows up. You ain't stuck. You're just stagnant because it's something there that's so pivotal in your walk with God, something so valuable. God doesn't want you to miss it. I want you to know 3 things that keeps us from developing the faith that we need to please God, to walk with him, to allow him the space to do supernatural things through us and in our environment. The number 1 thing is worrying. When you worry, the devil gets excited, because he understands that you really don't believe in God. You believe more so in the circumstances and things that he, possibly the devil, has put in your life to blindside you. So then you get your mind off of the promises of God and you begin to just put your mind on the worry. And the more that you put your attention, because you are spiritual, in worry, then it opens the door for the enemy to come in to give you more things to worry about. That's the first area that we struggle in when we're developing our faith, because it gets us into a situation where we're vulnerable, but that's the perfect situation for God to produce through you. So why worry then about what you're going to eat, where you're going to sleep, what you're going to do in this situation or that situation, when God feeds birds, the bees, the flowers, and the trees? Does he not care more about you than something that's here today and tossed and burned tomorrow? Where is your faith? Don't worry about the details. Number 2, you feel sometimes that you have to do it all alone. Some of us, because of what we've gone through in our lives, we had no choice to do it alone. We wouldn't have survived sometimes if it had not been for us showing up the way that we do and doing it on our own. And sometimes because the struggle be so real in our lives, our circumstances be so unfair sometimes in our lives, we were left with our backs up against the wall in our lives. And sometimes we develop this independence in ourselves, dependent in ourselves instead of God. And it takes a little practice and a little awareness to really understand that we can't do it all by ourselves. We never was able to do it. It was God working through us when we thought we was doing it. So just acknowledging that you need him. The third thing that really kind of marries it all together is what we truly do believe. Because from the very beginning in our lives, the enemy was after our beliefs through our social, development, through our early education, early relational experiences. It kind of, sometimes it gets us a little confused in what we truly do believe about God. Because sometimes, depending on what we went through, we say, well, why would God allow this to happen? Or why would God allow that to happen? He sees I'm struggling. He sees this. He sees that. But could it be God just allowing some things to happen in your life to wake you up so that you can understand that you don't have to understand all the details and all the specifics when it comes to your life? God wants you to be in a place in your life where you're solely dependent on him, because without your faith, it's no way to please him. It's no way for him to be able to move in your life. And I just want to reach out and touch somebody today to tell you, you don't have to worry. You don't have to do it on your own. Just develop your belief more. Rely on God more. When you're uncomfortable and you feel unsafe in your life and you're vulnerable in your life, cry out to him more. Sit down and talk to him like you would talk to a friend of yours. Pull up and get your cup of coffee, lock the doors and talk to God, and you'll be amazed at what he will do for you. Because I want you to know this today, just real quick. You don't have to have it all figured out. And until the next video, guys, peace, because I still be believing in you. Have a good day.